out of town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around. Hello, audience. Hello, internet. Today we have a very special episode for our podcast, A Talk on Titans. You can see him here already. We have two special guests. It's a takeover episode. I'm outnumbered here. TDS there and Slayer
That's the wrong
have
way.
invaded this podcast. TDS Slayer, welcome.
Hello, glad to be here. Excited, a little bit scuffed, but time zones always screw me over, and this was not an exception.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. I mean, the last time we came around, maybe I didn't nail the best of predictions. So Cribs, maybe I'll have a better shot this time, a little bit earlier in the old qualifier circuit.
Look, it's not about the score at the end, even though I did the best with Gordo. It's all about the heart and the intention and the thoughts behind it. And so that's what we're going to be testing here today. And yet, we did have some issues with time zones. The CST time zone gets everyone. That's the one that everyone messes up.
It's unlucky, but it happens. It's not the first time, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the last one either.
No, it will never be the case. If only everyone used a singular time, that would never get messed up. Oh well. All right, everyone. So we have some OQs to talk about. So last week we had our first round of GSL groups. A lot of teams played their games here. And if we just go ahead, flip over to the Group A bracket, it was Goons versus PPT, as well as AMI versus Art here, as we have our new graphic up there. And so just real quick for you guys, the funny thing is only one of these games is broadcast. So let's just talk really quick about this group. Because it's only one game because we didn't get the other team on broadcast. And Art missed their first game. So TDS or Slayer, whoever wants to take this, just one game. What was your thoughts on Group A?
Expected to a certain degree. Expected on the upward part. I think Dragon's Goons obviously should be the favorite to get out, and the fact that they are 2-0 is not that surprising. It's unlucky that we didn't get to see both games, but I do think that Apex Mission Impossible was a little bit underappreciated. So I feel like this could have been a much more competitive series. Surprised that it went a 2-0 though.
Yeah, certainly is surprising. I'm pretty high on this. I just call them Art of War because their name is Art of War in French. So Art's another way to talk about it. I don't want to put too much stock in the fact that they lost one game when they already had to miss one prior, and I would assume they had some sort of ban restriction as well going into the second game, waiting that long. So, yes, I think Apex Mission Impossible, they won the game, but I'm still pretty high on this Art of War squad. I've talked about it a lot. How I'm really impressed by Flaucon in the mid lane. I think Yumichi and Barlow together is like a really good duo to have as a bottom lane. Like, there aren't many bottom lanes I wouldn't pick over them right now. I mean, there's obviously a handful of obvious ones, but and then Maddie, with Flaucon, that is the future of St. Clair Saints, their league roster. So it's cool to see them playing together and getting that synergy. So the way I look at this group is pretty simple. Is like the Goons are gonna win it probably, and then I think we're gonna have a pretty fun lower bracket match. So yeah, to loop all the way back around, it's pretty standard to what I expected. If we're being real, if Art or Apex Mission Impossible had won, or whichever one of them won or lost, I think we're still all just expecting it to be Art, Apex Mission Impossible for the last spot in Group A. So it doesn't really change too much in my mind.
Yeah, I think we all agree there. I think we also all agree that if it was a full BO3, probably would have seen it gone the distance, or at least seen a better fight being put up by Art. But unfortunately, they missed the first game somehow, weren't able to win the second game, and so that kind of is the end of that game there. But talking just a little bit over about the top bracket there, we do have some data, we do have some information on it, and the one information I could pull is that Array tops the charts in KDA off this series with a KDA of 24.5, which is way above everyone else. So some kind of destruction happened in the bot side there.
Yeah, certainly showcasing why he's pretty much, I would be hard to find someone that would argue that he's not the number 180 carry in the OQ. He just like he's so complete. He's really good. He's bound to go back eventually to the NACL in my eyes at the very least, and
Mhm.
he's showing up once again as well, like with the top KDA here. And I'm expecting him to keep on having that sort of performance going forward in the OQs.
Yeah, Array to me as a player is just an AD that I think should have a spot in in the NACL. I think for a little bit people were thinking that he would be with the AOE conundrums that have been going on and some of the
Yeah,
being swapped around. He does not end up promoting, which is cool. It does seem like the Goons want to stay together for their run, as you know. They're not very far from just qualifying already for the promotion tournament. I would assume they only have to win the first round of the playoffs to qualify with top eight with the points they have, something like that. I'm not going to try to do the math on this broadcast, but my point is they want to stick together, which is
yeah,
nice because boy is Array just gapping everybody. Array, I think, is the one player right now that is just showing that he should not be in tier 3 at any point, which is nice to a degree. And I think what really goes back to the point is how he looked up against Sushi and Mixture, because he I think all of us spent the first qualifier being like, man, Sushi might be that next like Samikin, right? Like that's
Oh
the
yeah.
bar's now Samikin, right? Like who's gonna be the next Samikin from tier 3? I thought it would be Sushi, and then he goes into this grand finals, and Array just slapped him around. So Array, I mean, this guy's just tier 2 bound. Even if the Goons don't
yeah,
promote, I would hope that he's tier 2 bound.
yeah. He has everything
There's
to
no
just
way.
reach that point.
Yeah, that's someone's gonna pick him up. There's no way anyone's gonna let this 80 carry slip through. Funny enough, interview with Azog put Array number 1, and then pretty much ties himself with Sushi at 2 and 3. So that's Azog's rankings for top 80 carries there. As I think we're pretty much done with Group A there. Not too much to talk about. Let's go ahead, slip on over to Group B, as we'll have some more interesting games, and probably, in my opinion, the most interesting matchup in all of the GSLs, because of the way the seating worked. But let's talk about the top side here. Let's go over this Lotus Gentle Hearts Gaming. It says 2-0, and then also to just put a little bit more hurt on this game, Dardoch did not even play game number 1.
Nope.
It was their
Yeah,
coach. It was their coach. So if you can't beat them without Dardoch, I don't think you could beat them with Dardoch. There's just no way. I'm going to pass it to you, TDS, because interesting enough, GHG was up in both of these games, I think pre 20 minutes. So not something you would totally expect, but weren't able to close it out against Lotus.
yeah. The unlucky part is that I think that for even more so game 2 than game 1, they were actually in a really great control in that game 1, and they kind of just threw it away in a series of questionable plays. But that was without Dardoch. We were kind of thinking that that was the game that they could have taken. The second one was with Dardoch. They still found really good avenues, but that was Lotus with their full roster, and they were able to recoup really, really well. I think that the main point of focus here for both of these teams is Lotus not showing up to the same degree that maybe we were expecting, but they did have to play one game only with Dardoch, which obviously it's not easy having to only play one game with your full roster. We don't even know what was happening behind the scenes, so maybe Dardoch was affected by something even more in the second game, and that could have impacted the play. But for GHG, they are 100% dev independent, and that is not a effective manner to try and pull up a series against a contender like Lotus that is expected to even get to the grand finals and fight against the Goons. Like, they are a good enough roster in my eyes. They have strong pieces, but I feel like first and foremost, the top lane jungle duo is not working that effectively, and I think that Cross actually is smartly enough just recognized that there was no hope in the top side and went completely onto the bot lane focus, and that worked out effectively. But there's so much that Devin can do, and I think that the other two players in the mid lane and top lane have to step up, because if not, it's not going to be easy to be able to go against whoever loses from that upper bracket series.
Yeah, I think Gentle Hearts, their carry issues are somewhat warranted in the fact that this is also not a Zhao Danny meta.
Yep.
I'm not saying that he can't play a Tristana like back then, or like he can't play a Corki, but I know Zhao Danny is a very good Orianna player and a very good Talia player, and he's played the Talia still. But the problem with Talia now is that she's very much so, like a supplementary piece. You're not. We don't have the Talia that like solo carries games with this outrageous damage. You pick Talia now to like set up people with stuns, set up people with Weaver's walls. So it kind of inhibits Gentle Hearts to play, DD, Danny dependent, or Devin dependent, excuse me. I mean, it's a lot like playing the EG playing Danny dependent back in the day, but it's just not going to work out too much a lot of the time. And the switching around, there hasn't been much of a upgrade from Winters to Clyde, and yeah, PCL is struggling to go hands to hands with a lot of these top laners. So Gentle Hearts, I don't know, man, because they every time it's two Swisses in a row where they just play down to like the lower seeded teams, lose games they shouldn't. But then every time they match up against like teams that we're expecting them to get crushed by, they make the games close. Like the mid games of these two games against Lotus were throws by Gentle Hearts. They were gold throws. It was not like Lotus just sprung on these games and like blew them out. Like game one, if Sushi isn't hyper fed on that Ezreal, I think they do win that game. But that's a whole other avenue to talk about. So I don't know what Gentle Hearts is going to look like. I never know what Gentle Hearts is going to look like. And the unfortunate thing is we're not going to get to see. We'll see how they stack up later down the line. But yeah, I want this team to work. The young three that they have, I hope, even if Gentle Hearts doesn't reach back to a top 8 spot like they wanted to, I hope they still get looks, because I think there are promising futures for Cross, Zhao Danny, and Devin in this scene if they can find them.
Yeah, I think Cross, great pickup, as well with Zhao Danny. I think they have hope on the horizons, because based off Cross's champion pool, or at least the champions that Cross is most comfortable on, and the new upcoming patch, it does seem like mages are going to be making a better comeback in the meta. It's just not on this patch right now. And also, I want to say, just like across the board on all the other mid laners, all of them have upgraded their AD picks and AD gameplay. Yep. Like the only one is basically Zhao Danny, but everyone else has just made that leap. We could talk about Ariendel as well, but they've all made that improvement, and unfortunately, they just haven't caught up. So the meta may be, it's just not there fitting for them. Let's talk about the other one, Ducky Getters and Gromp Cord. Actually, that's the correct one. Down on the bot side there. It was basically 2-0. Looked pretty easy going for the Duckies, in my opinion. But unfortunately, Grump Cord are going to be forfeiting their next game. But let's just focus on the Ducky Getters here, because they kind of find themselves coming up against an interesting matchup versus Lotus.
Yeah, they're in a very. This is a fun spot, because this is the first time the Ducky Eaters and Lotus have gone blow to blow this entire set of qualifiers. I always thought that would have been a really. I think I said it with you, Crims, when we were on here looking at the top 4 last time, that Ducky Eaters Lotus would have been a really fun matchup to get, but we just didn't get it.
Yeah,
and then they never really ran into each other during Swiss, so now they get put in the same group. This is a very fun match, because I do think that these are the two teams that I believe bring. They're not the two most chaotic teams. I would label them as the two most controlled chaos teams. Because Lotus are chaotic in the sense that they like to play Dardoch on these like early game oriented carry dominant champions. And Sushi Mixture play really aggressive from the get-go. Robbie Bob is picking like Lucian mid, where he's dashing forward, trying to like poke. My point is they play aggressive in your face from like the jump, right? And then Ducky Getters are chaotic in the sense that they are a matchup nightmare in draft, and they also play with this. I think they both play with like this same like sense of we're not really afraid of anything. And I think it's just going to make. Yeah, right. The Ducky Getters aren't. Lotus aren't. Maybe Lotus are a bit more polished and controlled. That's what you expect with like a team that has Porsche, Robbie Bob, Dardoch on it. But this is going to be really fun, because I do think these two guys are going to both want to really play aggressive, and it's going to make for some really good TV, is what I'm trying to say.
All right, TDS, what's your opinion of Ducky Getters here?
I value their creativity as well as their potential to mix up everything so much in this sort of OQ scenarios, because I feel like obviously Lotus needs to step up their game from what they showed against CHG, but particularly what I was able to catch from the Ducky Getters series, right? The fact that they are able to flex so many picks, that they are able to bring their own meta into play and still play it effectively enough that it can go against the current meta is something that I value so much in a team. And like Slayer is saying, they are not scared at all of taking these risks that can lead them to victory, be it in game or out of game, with the picks that they are willing to bring out. So I feel like with the growth that they were able to pull off from the previous OQs, because this is also a pretty young, like this is a squad that doesn't necessarily have a ton of experience. So the fact that they are able to get that experience from the previous OQ and add on top of that the way that they were playing previously, I feel like there's a roster that has the sky to look up to, and I feel like they are going to keep on progressing that much.
Yeah, they have the rookie top side. Basically, all their top side is rookies.
Yep.
The veteran members are the two bot side, and Thrall did hiccup. So they, I mean, but it's the top side that is doing a lot of these creative picks and crazy ideas as well. And something we're gonna finally see is Dr. Calculus versus Porsche up in the top side. So just real quick, because I think Dr. Calculus has been doing super solid as well, versus the veteran stand-up player Porsche. What is your read on this top side matchup in particular? Let's go TDS.
So Porsche actually was so he performed well enough that I don't think was a problem for Lotus, especially in the previous series. But he did
Mhm.
struggle in certain situations. Like there was actually some situations where I could see him where he was struggling against PCL, and that's a scary prospect considering the fact that PCL hasn't been shining at all since the
Yeah,
start of the
well,
Oki. So now he hasn't been a shining star.
so you're gonna have to like be kind of specific here because I think the kind of agreement everyone is that Porsche dominated that top side. So what are the moments that you're
So
thinking where
here's the
he
thing,
didn't go
he
so
did
well?
like that's the fun part. Like he dominated the top lane, but he still wasn't as how to put it. So he dominated the top lane, but he wasn't the main reason why Lotus wins. And that's the
Okay,
thing
yeah,
that I actually value a lot because if you're stomping top lane or if you're dominating top lane, I expect you to win the game through your domination. But like we were saying before, Lotus actually was able to win those games in spite of their big mistakes because they committed some egregious mistakes in a lot of those situations. I won't say Porsche was part of the big egregious mistakes, but he also wasn't part of the big solutions. Like he was there, he did his job, but I expect more from you dominating your lane. And that's the part where going into this series, I can see there being not necessarily problems, but if there's a game where, for example, the Hockey Getters get that lead in top lane, I can see them actually making that lead be useful compared to what we saw from Lotus.
I
all
do
right,
think I do think the top lane is an interesting inflection point because for Lotus, a lot of the times they kind of throw Porsche into the stereotypical top lane role. Like I think his most played champion is probably Udyr across both the qualifiers by this point. At least has been getting banned the most against him too. And
It is.
his entire goal with Udyr is I don't need to get solo kills. I don't care if I get ganked. I'm just going to try and knock down the tier 1 turret before anybody else does, which, by the way, he's done like 3 separate games on Udyr with plates up, which is
yeah,
crazy. So, but Lotus really are like Porsche is willing to overpush his lane to unlock Dardoch. Their bot side's willing to
yes,
overpush to unlock
Yep.
Dardoch. And Porsche does not really care if he's not necessarily super ahead. He'll have those games. He had like a really good Renekton game during the Swiss stage where he was super fed. It's going to happen, but he doesn't really care about falling behind, and that's like a really integral part to Lotus. How it opens the door for the Ducky Getters on the flip side is Dr. Calculus like he'll pick these these fun carry picks. Like the last game he played against Gromcourt, he went 9-1-8 on Vayne top. And if the Ducky Getters can, it's funny because the Ducky Getters I think are going to want to play into the hand of the Lotus wants, which is like, oh yeah, we'll go after Porsche. But I haven't seen a team do it to the degree where it pushes them for a lead and like a lead that they can like actually like grasp to. I think Dr. Calculus is the one player that we could actually finally see that because we're not going to trust PCL. It's not. It's hard to like focus on it for one game, just one game series like in the Swiss. It's not easy to focus on. But besides the Goon series, Dr. Calculus is the first guy that I think could potentially play through a lead, and I'm really intrigued to see how the Duck Eaters go about the draft because it's one of those catch-22s where Lotus want you to play to put Porsche behind, but you might get them second guessing if you can win a game playing through topside against Lotus, because nobody's been able to really do that since the Goons in the grand final.
I
Yep.
do think. I mean, we kind of have to bring Bio into the conversation because This might just be like a feast or famine matchup on the 2v2 top side, where as soon as one side gets a lead, like they're just going to completely knock over the other side, especially in Bios picks. Something like a Rengar is always a possibility with this guy. So I mean, like, if we are we going to see like Rengar, we're going to see Nidalee probably, right? So these champions, once they fall behind, that's kind of it. So I expect it might be just a massive fist fight on the top side because they're going to play for Dardoch on the side of Lotus, and I think Ducky Getters to a similar degree play for Bio. So I think that we might see some juggle on jungle action.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I
Yeah.
think Bio and Dardoch play a very similar style in champ pool that isn't really reflected on anybody else. So this is just a really fun matchup to get here finally. Mainly because we, like I said, we haven't seen Lotus versus Ducky Getters yet. It's the one matchup of like the top 6 teams, top 4 we have that really hasn't bore any fruit yet across the summer.
Sadly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Exactly.
wish
Sadly,
we
losers
wish we had
bracket,
more
come on.
chance to see it, but
we
I
could.
I I just yeah could end up happening. I'm excited to see how this develops. I'm huge also on the mid lane matchup because I think Rob Baines is one of those players that is neither scared nor unwilling to go for against the opponent mid laner and for certain different picks that will surprise the mid laner. And I'm really excited also for how the Aurora champion is going to matter in this series because
Oh,
first of all, the Lotus were the first ones pretty much that I've seen the champion on, and they destroyed on the champion. And second, I think that Ducky is also a team willing to go for that pick, be it top lane or mid lane. So I want to see how much priority does the champion end up getting, and if it falls into the hands of anyone, how much power is it going to have?
yeah. There was a certain matchup with Aurora in the top side. We'll get to that one. That was not very pretty. So let's go ahead, hop over to group number C here, where we have again one of our top teams playing their game, but this time Pulse. I mean, I'm going to say they just drop a game to Maelstrom. I don't think this was supposed to happen. Also, their first game. That game was, I think they could have closed that out really quickly, and it ended up going a bit too long, in my opinion. Then they drop the game, then they come back. Then the
Yep.
last game. So the question is, like, Pulse, are they getting used to their new style still a little bit against some of the higher end teams? Did they just make a simple mistake? Slayer, what's your opinion on this 2-1? Because I don't think this was in anyone's predictions.
It certainly. I feel like this is going to sound like a cop out for me. I definitely, if I had gotten a prediction in, I would have definitely had Pulse 2-0.
Yeah,
However,
agreed.
I do think Maelstrom has shown enough that it doesn't shock me that they've taken a game from a team that probably wasn't expecting much of a fight. I think it's personally because like I've been very impressed by Paragon's growth. It's cool to finally see him in his first GSL stage. Sappy Mask coming back has been pretty impressive on that top side. You talked about how top lane kind of went in this series at times.
Yep.
I'm hesitant to judge any of our top 4 teams for sputtering in the GSL stage a little bit because that's exactly what the Goons did, and the Goons were the ones that ended up
True.
just kind of like running the grand final. However, I do entertain the argument that the Goons are a team of all should be NACL players, or at least like former NACL players or subs on LCS teams, where Polestar is like Will's that, Hoarder's not that, Ariendel's not, and their bottom lane is a lot less veterancy now. So maybe they are, getting used to their new look now that they're into these BO3s. I'm cautiously waiting, and I actually think
Yeah.
it's almost a gift that Polestar are going to get PNWs because the trajectories of these two teams and like the momentum is completely opposite. Like Pulse is like, we came out of a best of 3 where we dropped to Maelstrom 1 and we looked a little shaky. PNW's just rocked BlackRock, and they're a team that are like steadily becoming the new Ducky Getters of this qualifier. If we're talking about like where they came from to now, so if Pulse can like shut down and like win this series commandingly to go back to the top 8, then I won't be worried about the new look Polestar. But BNWs is certainly going to be a test. This is also a really fun matchup.
Mhm.
For obvious reasons.
All right,
Yeah, and
TDS, thoughts on the new Polestar? Because I mean, we haven't seen this version of them before. Let's get your opinion as well
so
as
that's
into
the
this.
the thing is that Slayer just now saying P&W. It's a bit of a luck, a bit of a good thing that they got this P&W instead of the BlackRock Esports. I'm not even sure about that. I think that P&W has everything in them to actually upset this Polestar. Obviously, like they are still a team that has great players. Like you said, Will particularly is one of the junglers that I'm always excited to see because he plays really, really well. And then you have Irondale that I think has improved quite a bit and shown great things in general. But my main thing here with Pulsar and the part that I can see with them dropping onto B&W that keeping stringing so effectively is that I feel like if they are put onto the how to put it. So if they are thrown into a tough matchup from the get go, like they are faced with a wall immediately, I feel like Pulsar's answers are not that effective to that wall. Like they feel like I feel like if they are pressured on the spot, their answers are simply not enough. And against a team that can exploit those answers, I can just see the other team just swinging much harder and dropping Pulsar from out of nowhere.
That's interesting. Um, I think that, I mean, they've shown a new look, right? They've shown a new look for sure. We see Ariandel now playing the ADCs a little bit more consistently, and I had a chat with Rourke, and he kind of laid it down the new pulse, and yeah, they are trying to adapt to this new meta. They're trying to hit these new pick comps. I mean, the poke comps with the double ADC comps as well. So I mean, it's not that much turnover time, and so I think maybe they kind of they're definitely trying to adapt to something new. It might not fully be there yet, but I mean, as soon as they put Ariandel on like a mage again, it's like boom, they're just back in it. So I think they're trying to widen their pool, especially for the coming up brackets in this game. So I think these games are a little bit of a test game as well. On top of the fact that they might have made some mistakes. Agree, disagree, Slayer?
I think this group is really marred by we're waiting to see how two of these teams adjust to their changes. And, not to kind of segue away from your point, I do agree overall with Polestar. And if they want to be the promotion tournament team that they're hoping to be, they're going to have to get over those pains. But
Yeah.
I think the bigger story is the spot that BlackRock are in. I was one of the people that was like, Krakodon is an instant upgrade in the jungle here for BlackRock on a team that I already thought was very exciting and unique because of their bot lane in the first place. And yeah, I mean, P&W just punched them in the mouth, and now they, are showing some signs of trying to adjust with Krakodon in. And, you expect them to win versus Maelstrom, but it could be very interesting, right? If we get... Because I actually, I do agree with TDS. I am a big fan of P&Ws. I wouldn't be shocked if they're at the team to qualify out of this group from this matchup. But just think of the weight of this lower bracket match if it's Polestar BlackRock, because both teams, like Polestar, is vying. I mean, where are they? I can pull it up with the new points tab. Polestar is right now. They're in the promotion tournament.
Yep.
And they would have dropped down there after a shaky first series and a loss before that. BlackRock are, they're 5 or they're 6 right now in the points. They need to make a deep run. Everyone's treating them like an upgraded squad, but they're also in elimination spots. The fact that one of those two teams doesn't get through is really cool. So I'm really just waiting to see which one of Polestar or BlackRock are going to show me that they're getting over their growing pains, because if one of them doesn't, P&Ws are going to qualify for top 8. And I could see it in either 1 or 2 spot because of the way this group has been going and the way the P&Ws have been playing.
Yeah, but at the very least, right? Like for Polestar in comparison to BlackRock, Polestar did win. At the very least, like Polestar, for better or for worse, they do have that edge of having won their first series. So even if they play badly and still win, they qualify. BlackRock doesn't have that sort of extra safety, right? Like if they perform badly once again, that's it. They're out of both tournaments. this one and promotion. So like I
Yeah.
feel like the added pressure may impact BlackRock a little bit more. I still think they should be better than Maelstrom, but I can see a word like you're mentioning where Pulsar BlackRock is facing in the lower bracket, and I would favor Pulsar 100% there. And even if PNW is the one going down there, I can still favor PNW over BlackRock depending on how those series go.
Okay. So I don't know how we're glossing over this. Okay. Someone needs to explain to me. All right, what's going on with Diesel in the top side? Because second OQ in a row, second time in the GSL group, dude gets blasted out of the top lane in dramatic fashion. It's not even
Yeah.
close. Last time it was in Lanasia. Now Prank's doing it here as well. I mean, we had the Aurora matchup with Olaf is not a good pick into Aurora. Don't know what happened there. And then, very
True.
quiet in the game on Camille in a good matchup with Nar. And I understand there's other team plays and factors and stuff like that. It's not just Diesel. But they're putting Diesel in carry picks. It's not even close to happening. This is the second OQ. I understand, they've also made great plays in other games, but when they meet that certain player, Diesel just gets smashed every time. So someone needs to explain to me why this happens consistently.
So the only explanation I can offer you, there's not much of an explanation here, Chris.
How do we know? How is this not the first topic?
Yeah.
He's definitely getting blasted. I do think that when you have a team with a Nori B on it, he's gonna play somewhat early dominant champions, even in a meta where hyperscalers are big. He's just an aggressive AD carry player, and he's also familiar with Krakenon. From what I saw, Krakenon has been favoring the bot side a bit more, which is fine. Like this should work if Diesel
Yep.
holds his own, but he hasn't. He did not hold his own, and we'll see when the matchup. I'm still just gonna say it's like Diesel versus Hoarder. Or Diesel versus Hoarder or playing Prank again, right? I need to see Krakenon just help the boy out a little bit here. Let's just let the BlackRock bot side do their thing. Anori B's not going to give up a lead. You don't have to worry that much about mid lane. Let's just start leaning a little top side. Let's clear up a couple times here, Krakenon. Let's just get the boys some kills because at a certain point, you just got to be that valiant jungler that helps out. He's getting a lot of these matchups. He's getting smashed in. It's like the top lane island in a lot of ways. There wasn't a lot of help. And sometimes you just need a little help. That's the only thing I could think of that could fix this. Because he has gotten kind of dumpstered, and it's a real crux for BlackRock.
TDS, give your thoughts. I just want to add on counterpicked both times as well. So, TDS, I'm just making it worse. But TDS, keep going before I keep complaining.
No, because I can segue that perfectly onto the same problem that GHG has. Like because PCL gets the same treatment, and I want to segue away from what Slayer was saying because I don't disagree necessarily. But here's the thing: if you get a counter pick and you're still losing your lane, the problem is on you. It's not on your jungler. And I cannot go against the idea of trying to feed your AD carry that will clearly carry if he gets the resources. So like I just have to look at Diesel's performance here and say he has to be the one changing something here, or the team has to be the one saying to him, play safe. You don't need to do anything else. Because and this almost worked for GHG, but it's the same logic there. PCL gets counterpick. I watched the OQ run as well as the games from this weekend. He gets counterpick in I would say 7 out of their 8 games. I think they played 8 games total. No, well, 6 out of their 7 games total because they lost 2-0. If you get that amount of counter pick and you still lose in most of your games, that's a you problem, not a team problem. Like you have to make your counter picks value, and you're not making that happen. So I feel like you have to look at Diesel, change his mindset, or not change his mindset, but at the very least, make him be a player that doesn't die consecutively or consistently. Just play for the team in that sense. Allow for the AD carry to carry you, and that's it. You don't need to do much more. Will that work long run? Maybe not. But at the very least, that fixes the problem of you being eliminated in the first round, which is something that BlackRock certainly doesn't want to happen to them.
They definitely need to do something around this strategy. Carry weak side top is possible. You can do it.
Yeah.
And also, like, you could pick carry champions and weak side top with, like, PCL. Sometimes he gets too far behind, but, like, at least plays the Aatrox, right? This is a champion we all know is a carry champion that you can weak side top. There's the Aatrox, there's the Renekton. Exactly. Something that you can play safe enough in the early phases by the strength of your champion, so you don't just get absolutely demolished. So we're looking for some kind of solution to this problem if BRE are going to be making it through. But let's go ahead. I think we've talked enough about this group. Let's go ahead and jump down to the last match from last week of Group D here. And we have Guangdong Flying Tigers versus Reluminate. So interesting development for here. I think most people had this going the opposite way, but we get an upset, and it was great series overall, and we had some really standout players from this series. A lot of people stepped up on Reluminate, so TDS. We could talk about the players, or we could talk about the team as a whole. Where do we want to start?
So first and foremost, I want to say I'm so extremely sad about the fact that one of these two teams are going to be eliminated because I actually like how both of these teams play. So I'm sad that one of these two are going to get out because I think Komodo will get out as well. But one of the big things that I particularly kind of wanted to focus was the jungle matchup. I think actually Ivan against Evan Lai was interesting to say the least, and I think Ivan really showed up greatly in this series. I want to see what more he can pull up, but I think that his play was really great, but also the way that the rest of the team kind of pushed forward that identity of the jungler and allowed for it just to work out seamlessly. I really want to emphasize that because I feel like the team really helped Evan Ivan more. Or Ivan, sorry, in that.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to cast this series. It was a banger. And Ivan was... Whew, I mean, even in the game where game one was just hilarious because it was like 45 minutes long. You had every single scaling threat that Riot has possibly made on Summoner's Rift. It was like there was a Smolder mid, there was a Crit Jin, there was a Zeri, there was a Karthus. I'm just like, I just sit there like, all right, who's gonna blow up who first, right? And this game went 20 extra minutes because Ivan was so fed against a non-tank comp from the Flying Tigers that he just pressed R and like deleted half of them. His Karthus was super impressive, but the rest of the series, like he just kind of manhandled game 2, carried it through, and game 3 they got the job done. Reluminate were playing just so much more. They were willing. It's like they had the calculations done because in game 3, like they were at one point facing Elder Baron buff combination from Guangdong Flying Tigers, and I'm just sitting there like every caster does. Oh, a team has Elder and Baron. Why are we not just running down into the Nexus turrets? Like this is a winning fight, winning game every time. No, they survive it. Then they almost throw it. They almost throw the game by triple teleporting to try and finish on resets, and then throw again. And it's just pure pandemonium. But Reluminate, they knew, except for that one miscalculation, how far they could play. And you got to give your hats off to any team that like survives triple inhib Baron Elder. And that's what Reluminate did to win this series. So, really fun story. I think Ivan is definitely the standout to talk about. He was just masterful in that carry AP jungler role that he can still play. And I really thought the Flying Tigers were going to take this one because I came into this GSL stage saying the Guangdong Flying Tigers were the most underseeded team in this entire tournament, based off like their history in Nigel's Last Tiles, stealing one of the better Gromp Corps members. And they just looked a little bit shaky. It's another team that kind of shook up the roster, I guess, since this is supposed to be Nigel's Last Tiles' slot, and looked shaky. And I firmly expect them to go blow for blow once again to finish off this group because Komodo slapped around Contingent playing Fnatic at 80 carry, and it wasn't close. Komodo is way better than where they started in this tournament.
All right, TDS, what are your thoughts on this series?
Yeah, no, like I think Guangdong will be able to bounce back. The only thing is that, and this is going to be reflected on my predictions for the next week's matchups, because I actually got stuck thinking about it, and it's the part where I feel like Guangdong, I hope it's not the case, may be affected going into the next series just because of how they ended up losing this series, right? Like I feel like they are probably one of the better teams that didn't perform up to the level that I was expecting on them, and I hope that doesn't impact their way that they continue playing. Because even though Kamado slapped Contingent, I still think Contingent is actually not that bad of a team considering their players. And I can see them trying to pull off an upset. But I just feel like this group is Komodo favored, and then it's going to be remaining on the who from GFT and Reluminate are going to play. Like
Mhm.
it's my once again, my predictions are not going to reflect this, but after thinking it actually thoroughly, I do think that it's going to be dependent on GFT and Reluminate.
Yeah, it's definitely it's probably going to be a rematch, but if it's not, then I think it's going to be interesting either way.
Yeah.
Komodo would have to drop a game, and then we get an interesting another third matchup. I do think if talking about Komodo for a second here. Look, I think Doxa has woken up. That break, he's washed off the rust, came back, looked really good in the Jace game as well, and I think Trickster just had a great series overall. Didn't really make too many mistakes and was just, what a great carry performance. Managed to do it on AP jungler as well as the Kindred. So I think looking forward, Komodo is this a top contender team right here, guys?
With the
They feel
full
like
roster,
it.
I can see. Yeah, the
Yeah.
problem I think that it depends wholly on who their AD carry is going to be.
Okay,
Because
so
I'm
let's just
100% sure it's not going to be
baseline.
Fnatic, right?
The baseline here, are they top six right now?
Yeah,
Yes. Without a
Yeah,
doubt.
yeah,
I think
I can
so.
agree.
Top six for sure. All right, let's go ahead. Let's talk about the lower bracket as well. Guangdong Flying Tigers versus Contingent Esports. Contingent, they looked. To me, I always see them, and I think, they're well trained as a team. Sometimes they get a little crazy overall, and sometimes their macro isn't at the same level as the top team. So I'm always like,
Yep.
but but when they play by the books, it looks good. But they're going against the Guangdong Flying Tigers here, so I'm gonna just shoot it back to TDS. What do you think are their chances?
I can see this being a 2-1, honestly. Like I think Contingent, like you're saying, they are a team that I can see being well oiled enough that they can take off a game. And even the series in some aspects, because I do think that Guangdong is such a momentum based team. Like they are a great team, but they are really based off of the momentum that they are able to build up in how they are trying to play. And if that momentum gets a little bit shook or broken at any point, I can see them crumbling in some instances. So I can maybe see an upset happening here. But logically speaking, I think it's going to be a GFT 2-1. And with that 2-1 from GFT, I can also see them running the momentum to try and qualify. Because I feel like this team is really, really great from GFT. Like when they get on their stride, I really like how they play.
Yeah, I share those sentiments. I kind of already alluded to it that I thought they were undefeated at the get go. I think this is just one of those situations where, I don't want to speak for Contingent Esports. I'm purely going off like their history in the qualifiers with this statement, but
Mhm.
I think Contingent. Our goal is as people and personalities around the qualifiers was that Contingent. We're hoping that they make a GSL stage because they hadn't done it. They've kind of accomplished their goal in at least my eyes. The Flying Tigers have everything to play for in this series. Like they cannot drop here. They cannot drop
Yeah.
here, especially
That's
after
true.
like it's not even the fact that the Nigel's Last Tiles rosters like were competitive rosters in GSL stages. Like we expect more out of Evan Lai Elias, like a quest led team. For me, it's like the upgrades that they were able to make. Like Ultio and Realms are like on like what they've shown already in these qualifiers, and Ultio specifically in that last series against Illuminate. This team cannot bow out here. Like I just refuse to believe it. So I could see the argument for 2-1. I think it's gonna
Yeah.
be 2-0. I think this is gonna be the
Okay.
Flying Tigers like angry and
All right.
Contingent are in the way.
We got some more things to talk about here. So that's the end of Group D. That's kind of last week and a little bit of what we're talking about in the future here. So let's just real quick bang it out. Let's get our players of the week. We've came up with 4 players who we think deserve the spots. So TDS is going to take 2. Slayer is going to take 2. Slayer, who are your 2 picks first?
Yeah, so my guys, I've kind of already alluded to them. I guess we go to one we already talked about.
So we
Ivan
all
was.
agreed on these, but he's
We all
revealing
agreed,
2.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm just saying the two that like I'm gonna be honest, I cap for the most in the old chat.
yeah.
So
Fair
Ivan,
enough.
Ivan was like bar none. I think the most impressive part about that Reluminate Reluminate win. Like he was just masterful in this one. I kind of mentioned that the Karthus game was like what kept it alive for so long, but he really came alive in those last couple of games where the Nidalee performance was very very good. Into he could really just shut Evan Lai out of this game in the Zins out, and then the Shyvana. Say whatever you want, man, about how broken the Shyvana is in this build path. Like I recognize it, but the man had like 18 KP in like a 24-minute game win on the Shyvana and was quite
Yeah.
literally unstoppable. I don't think I think Reluminate gets swept if Ivan is not playing for them. That's why he's my first player of the week, and I'll be a bit quicker on the second one. Sushi is still that guy in the GSL stage that he was last time
It's
around.
him.
He is him. He is in fact the tier 380 carry him. That Ezreal game was really impressive. Like TDS, you said it. We watched it. Gentle Hearts had a really great early game in game
Yep.
one. We thought we were going to run away with it. One fight where they just ignore Sushi because he's been quietly farming to 2 items this entire game, and he gets a quadra kill, and he ends up going like
Yeah.
10, 1, and 6, and he just carries Lotus out of a really sticky situation, gets them Dardock back, and looked really impressive on the Jinx as well. I think he ended that game with a near penta on top of that. So
Yeah.
it's just Sushi doing Sushi things in the GSL stage. I don't need to say much more about him.
There we go. All right, TDS, bring
Agree.
up the other two here, and we can get the player of the week honors to all 4 of them.
Yeah, so the remaining two, the first one would be Prank. Obviously, we were kind of hyping it up with the way that he performed, and obviously a little bit of hit on the other side, but he played really, really great. He was performing up maybe even higher than we were expecting coming into that first matchup and performed to a really great degree. And I hope to keep on seeing him develop more because he's still not a player that I think we have seen all of what he's able to accomplish. Like I think he's going to keep on improving and he's going to keep on getting better if he gets the chance to keep on going like that. And then the other one is a much more seasoned player, one that he certainly has had his highs, he has had his lows, but he performs when it's needed, and it's Doxa. He is on the mid lane, he's great whenever he gets the chance to show up, and when the team needs him to step up in some of these games, he goes for it. Last OQs maybe was a little bit rougher, but this time around I think he's here to play, and he performed in that first week.
Yeah, I think shaking off a bit of the rust, really coming back into the role as well, and as adapted to the meta so far. So interested to see Doxa, especially against the other top teams, and see
Yep.
how they match up in that mid lane role. As now, we're gonna go ahead because this is a Titan Esports here broadcast. We're gonna be bringing up our marquee matchups. So the first marquee matchup here on the left side is going to be the Goons versus AMI, guys. Goons versus AMI. Look, Goons are the favorite for the tournament. No doubt about it. They're winning. How do you think Apex is going to match up real quick here, Slayer?
I think Apex is going to match up pretty well in potentially the mid lane matchup here. I think I've been most impressed by Zalt when it comes to Apex Mission Impossible. I just think Array and Daption are too good on the bot side. Potentially, maybe Dragoon versus Decoy could be fun, but whenever I see Apex Mission Impossible, I keep my eyes on Zalt. And then Low Jazz is one of those guys that I look at. He's from it's not the tree of Samikin, but he's a buddy of Samikin, and when he was the team that Samikin like came up with in the tier 3 Risen tournaments was, I believe, Solidified, Low Jazz, Samikin, Devon, and Phantom Star. So any guys, I think all of them have made a lot of really big progress in different varying
Yep.
levels, and Low Jazz has really been
Yeah.
showing it since he got to Apex Mission Impossible. So Low Jazz and Zalt maybe could carry them to a 1-game win, but those are the guys you're going to want to watch in that side of the bracket.
All right, TDS, other marquee matchup here, Pulse and PNWs. We talked a little bit about it, but yeah, let's highlight a new lane, a new matchup for this discussion here. And what do you want to talk about with that lane?
Well, when the Pulsar won, I think, well, first and foremost, I think this is going to be a much more exciting potential that we were kind of expecting for it. Like, I think this has everything just pulled up. I think it can go the 3 games. I think PNW is not something to scoff at. And I want to see the mid lane matchup, actually. Like, I'm a mid laner. I'm always going to be a mid lane enthusiast no matter what happens. And I think Argandale Algrim can be really exciting. Maybe not in what the Champus can bring, but in what both of these players can bring. And if I get to go for a second one, it has to be Horde or Pranked. Obviously, Pranked showed up. And as long as they can play their, not their matchups, but their picks, and they get a counter pick, I can see both of these players just crashing into each other. I'm expecting at the very least a 3-game series here.
All right, 3-game series. Okay, so there's our marquee matchup. Definitely catch those this weekend at Titan Esports. Of course, there's other ones here as well as. I mean, we're all three of us are going to be casting these games, so definitely tune into everyone to go ahead and catch those games for this weekend as we start talking about the other matchups here. Now we're going to start throwing our predictions, and we're just going to run them down from the screen here, top to bottom. So we also have our friend of the show, Gordo, throwing their predictions in here in the lot with us. So since he's not here, we can make fun of him. But it looks like I'm the odd man out on this one. I think everyone is just. I think this is gonna be a little bit closer than one thinks, but I still think Le Art de la Guerre will win this one.
Yeah,
Don't
I'm
say
gonna
that
keep it.
name in French.
I
I'm gonna
suck
keep it
at
a
French.
stack. I'm gonna keep it a stack. Like this was my dark horse team to make some noise in top 8. I expect Art of War to be top 8. So I'm just backing them 2-0 here. There's not too much Slayer analysis. It's more Slayer bias with this one.
Yeah,
Understandable.
I know I know the mid laner on PPT. I think they're pretty good as well. I think everyone's just sleeping on them a little bit. Lack of evidence for sure. I don't think they're gonna win it, but I think they're good enough to pull off at least a one game steal away. So I'm gonna give them the steal here. Let's go ahead, hop over to the next prediction. As this one again, I'm just disagreeing with everyone. But like, I don't see any reason why BRE doesn't 2-0s here. But TDS, you think differently. Why am I wrong?
I just think that BlackRock has to show otherwise that they are not in a bad moment, and it has to be the series. But the thing is, I feel like they are going to struggle a little bit. I don't disqualify that much from Maelstrom. I think they have what it takes in them to at the very least take a game of a BlackRock. I still think BlackRock should be the favorite, but there's much more competition than I think people are expecting out of this. BlackRock will show up, but Maelstrom will also show up.
All right, let's go ahead. And we've been talking about these teams all day, so let's go ahead and move on to the next matchup here. We're just getting it down. We're just writing it on the table as TDS.
Whoa!
Explain
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and that's what I was saying. My predictions may say otherwise, but I was expecting DFT. So here's the thing. I think contingent is slept on. I feel like this team actually can pull off the potential upset, but this is also more based on GFT, much more so than their own team.
That is true.
Because I think GFT is a big team of their own play. And like I was saying, they are kind of a momentum based team in some of the situations where if they are on the moment they are playing great, they are going to ride that wave. They are really good at keeping right when they are riding it. But when it gets broken, and I kind of think that happened against Reluminate, I can see them dropping even against a team that is probably lower than them. So that's why I put the 1 and 2. This is one of the ones that I was thinking the most because I can see GFT 2-0ing as well as seeing Contingent winning 2-1. I went with the 2-1 because I also want to be the smarter one. If it actually comes through, I can look like the smarter one. So
I
I'm
think it's
going
in
with
the
that.
realm of possibility for sure.
For
Contingent
sure.
can win this one, but I think this one's more likely. I've unfortunate as it is because I really want them to do better. I really want them to be able to put up a bigger fight. I've just seen them crumble too many times at this part of in the stage.
Sure.
So I'm just going with that. As let's go ahead, hop over to the next prediction here. As Slayer, I think this time it's on you to explain this 2-1 because everyone else here is going the straight 2-0.
Have we not learned from the last GSL stage, guys? Come on. The goons are never gonna run a perfect GSL stage. They're gonna drop a game, and I think I could see it here. It's just like a cheeky little game 2, cheeky little game 2. Zalt gets on one of those marquee marksman mids and just kind of runs away with one of these games. I could see it. I think Apex have shown that they can. They have now leveled up to the status where they can potentially take games off of our top 6, and I think this is a spot where the Goons are going to be like, ah, shucks, we lost game 2. Let's lock in for game 3 and win it.
Well,
That's
that definitely, if they do lose, that is definitely their attitude. No doubt. It's like, all right, guys, come on.
It's
Let's
like,
just go, man.
all right, we got the next one.
They'll
Okay.
meme like, I threw the game, whatever. Moving on. All right, next matchup here. As this one, I think this one surprisingly we're kind of all in agreement of who should win. But
Illuminate
Gordo,
love?
I mean Gordo is always here as well as Slayer. You're saying there's gonna be a game dropped here. That's what you're thinking that.
Yeah, I just gotta give some respect to my boy Ivan here. I think Illuminate. I don't think I watched that 45-minute game. They just would not lose. They would not surrender the game. And then they did the same thing in game 3, like I talked about, with up against all odds. I think they're going to find a way to scrape out one game. They have shown that they are really good at playing reactionary team fighting with scaling champions. So I could see Illuminate getting one draft where, yeah, they're going to get bodied in the early game and mid game potentially, but they're going to be leaning on those hyperscalers, double marksman, Ivan on some sort of AP jungle carry, and they'll just find a way to claw out of one late game scenario. I refuse to. This is once again my not too much analysis. Is me like I went through that Illuminate series with them. All right, I got to give them some more points.
They're gonna pull a win through sheer willpower.
Okay,
is what I'm getting.
They were very weird. Like that was the series win. They just out willpowered the Flying Tigers. That's what happened. So
I mean, sometimes you can if you stay alive, the enemy team just like screw it, let's just go 5 mid or something, and they just throw the game. So you know what? It's a possibility. Let's go ahead, move it over to the next series coming up here. As I've been saving this the whole time. TDS, this is your time to shine.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been speeding through these. You have Ducky Getters winning this one. Tell me why you think they're going to pick up the victory here.
So it's important to preface it with, first and foremost, I'm a Ducky Getters fan. I think they are a great team, and I love their concept.
No shame in that.
Now, the actual analysis part. I wasn't impressed with Lotus. Darduck, they were closer to losing out a game than winning that series 2-0. And that, to me, is not the greatest shout-out, because GHG is not an impressive team either. They were 100% dependent on Devon. And obviously, Sushi is a great AD carry, but I think that Ducky has allowed them to be able to pull it up, and their drafting is something that I've always been impressed with Ducky Getters. I think they can play around a lot with what Lotus will try and accomplish, and I won't never sleep on the top side from Ducky Getters, because I think those 3 players are great as well. Robbie Bob is someone that I'm never going to scoff at either. I think the middle matchup is going to be great, but I think Jungle Top is going to surprise this series, and I think Duck Getters will pull it off in the 3 game.
Yeah, I hope Jungle Top's going to be the pinpoint of this series as well. That's why I gave him a 1. I think they're going to definitely take a game. I think it's going to be a convincing game as well. Do they also take a second one? I lean in favor of Lotus. I think there's the quality of player, or at least the veteran experience, the more history. I have more data on them as well. But I also agree that GHG game wasn't the best look for Lotus. I think we all agree with that. But if we're giving passes to top teams, I mean that's my Lotus pass right there.
Fair enough.
That's my Lotus pass.
Yeah, I mean that's where I'm leaning with the 2-0 is that I'm giving them a pass from the Gentle Hearts series.
I didn't give them that big of a pass. I think you, Gordon, Ducky Getters are definitely the quality to get a game. I think that's for sure.
And I hope they are, because I love their team so much. Like I love the way that they play so much.
I definitely no. This. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Ducky Getters here. I think that Lotus are the masters of controlled chaos, and Ducky Getters are the apprentice. And sometimes the apprentice has to be. Yeah, the apprentice has to be reminded why the master is the master. So we'll see it here
until they beat the master.
Until they beat the master, which could happen too. I just love everybody involved in both of these teams. I'll take the higher road, but right, like
this is a great matchup. This is a great matchup.
On once, like the Lotus side, Lotus side is like veterans that deserve to be back in tier 2, looking to pave their way, and then the Duck Eaters are just so feel good and fun. It's like a bunch of Zoomer kids that just like playing Rengar and Ivern mid that are just gonna smash your qualifiers. It's whoever wins. It's I'm happy either way.
True, I agree. I think there is no loser except for the team that actually loses in this.
Right.
In this,
but they're not eliminated.
Everyone else takes a win.
Also,
All right.
technically, whoever they face in the GHG, who they face in the lower bracket as well. So
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
technically,
Yeah, this one might change up the standings though of the playoffs. So very interesting. This is kind of an important match, right, to be honest. So whoever
yep.
wins this changes up the the playoffs very heavily. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the next one. Or I can't count, and there is no next one. Okay, here we go. We talked about this one. This is the last one, as we have. Oh, there's supposed to be 8, but there's actually 7 because Gromcourt is going to be FFing. So unfortunate.
Rip.
So this one, this is the most even split out of all of them. Me and Gordo are going. Yeah, Pulse are gonna Pulse. They're gonna come back. This one should be an easy win. But for you guys here, we talked about this a lot. P and W. You guys think they're gonna put up a good fight?
Yes, I am a big fan. If Pranked is going to keep playing the way he did against
That's
BlackRock,
true.
man, I think it really unlocks this team. I'm also just like a huge fan of this arc from Colthrow where he's like the coach, the drafter, and the jungler. It allows you to be really involved and succinct in like your idealistically how you want to play your drafts and play your comps. And I think he's the perfect veteran to kind of unlock guys like Aojun. I think overall I'm just a really big fan of PNW's top side if Pranked is playing at this level. So
Yeah.
I think
All
they'll
right.
take a game off a Pulse team that is still looking to kind of figure out their identity.
I'm gonna cover it now because of Coltoro's name. But like, are they allowed to just write whatever name they want in there? Because
I
it
kind of
is
think they
hella
are.
confusing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an age old question
I
of
would
tier
assume
three
they are.
League
Yeah.
Legends.
I would
No,
assume
they
they
need.
are, but like, yeah, I won't question that as well as I won't question the potential picture of Pulsar. But I do think PNW is showing up really great. They are playing really nicely. And the upset, I don't think it was by pure chance. Like, I think they performed to a level that should at the very least put a little bit of pressure on Pulsar and force a 3-game series as well.
All right, so I think this does lay out who we think are getting out of the group, because so that's Pulse as well. Who are the ones that we're missing here? Pulse gets out.
Boon.
TDS thinks Ducky's getting out
Yeah, then
first,
I think
but the rest,
Lotus
yeah, the
Yep.
rest of us think Lotus, and then we also think Goons is getting out. So those are our basically number one seeds that we're predicting there.
and
And
As
Komodo
Komodo.
and
Oh, and
Komodo.
Yeah,
Komodo as
Komodo.
well. I missed that one. And Komodo is getting out. Guys, it's been about an hour, so we've kind of talked up all that we can. Great conversation. This was pretty fun. You guys will get one closing statement of approximately a minute before we just go. So, Slayer, what do you got? You got to shout something out. Your burning heart desire. You got to do it now.
I love no. I think this is the most fun part about qualifiers. We are getting down towards it, top 8, and then we start talking about the point system, baby. So this is where the points are really going to start coming in, especially for that Lotus and Ducky Gators matchup. If you have not been super tuned in and you want to lazily just jump on in, hopefully you've been listening to us today. This is the time period where everybody really cares about the qualifiers. So tap in
Very
from
good.
here on out, and because in less than 2 weeks we'll have our 4 teams looking to promote to whatever the hell tier 2 looks like next year.
All right.
Again,
TDS real qualifier
Sayoe
starts now.
and Winthrop potentially because
Potentially.
I'm assuming Winthrop will be down
Okay.
there. But so my 30 seconds. Thanks for having me here. It's been fun. It's been exciting talking about the Oki teams. I'm excited to see what it's going to remain from them. I have high hopes from a lot of these teams, and I have high hopes for the relegation tournament because I think it's going to be really fun. And yeah, next year will be weird, but we're still in this one, so we're going to enjoy what's left of this one as well. And also, we're casting this weekend, Slayer and I at the Crims as well.
Yes.
So come watch every one of us in our cast. And I'm also casting Honor of Kings before the League of Legends cast. So if you want to watch that, enjoy mobile games, come watch that as well.
All right. So TDS, gentlemen there thanking us for being on the show, and like someone else, as that
I
is
love
our
Titan Esports.
that is going to be the end of our broadcast and the pod Attack on Titans. Thank you to TDS and Slayer for showing up and being here as well. And also for Chris Sunga, our production, always got to thank him. And that is going to be the end of our talk of round 1 and our upcoming round 2 GSL groups. So don't forget, watch our broadcasts on Saturday and Sunday. And that is it. That's the show, guys.
I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love, you say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love, you say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.